In this video, I'll talk about Atmega registers. I mean registers of the Atmega. So suppose this is your microcontroller, and these are the pins you can see. And if you want to configure this particular pin, like if you want to use this pin, so there are many ways by which you can use this pin. Suppose if you want to connect a sensor to this pin, right? You can connect a sensor. You can connect LED, right? So suppose here are three registers for configuring the pin. Before using the pin, we have to tell the processor that we are connecting the sensor, or either the LED or the sensors. So there are some registers. First one is port register, second is pin register, and third one is DDR register. So these are the three registers by which you can configure the pin in the input mode or output mode. So suppose if you want to connect a sensor, then you have to tell the processor that I want to connect the sensor, and you have to configure this particular pin in the input mode, right? So for configuring this pin, you have to use this DDRX register. So this DDRX register will tell that the pin is configured in the input mode or output mode. So to configure the pin in the input mode, you have to write this register 0. You have to write a value 0, and for the output mode, you have to write 1. Suppose if you want to connect a LED, so that will be the case of the output mode. So you have to write this register as 1, like this. DDR, the particular port, and is equal to 1. It depends on the pin, which pin you want to configure. Suppose it is a 8-bit register, then you have to make sure that which pin you are using. So on that particular pin, you have to write 1 for the output and 0 for the input. So now we will talk about the port X register. So in the case of port X register, this register is used to write the value to the particular pin. Suppose if you want to use the pin for the output, so firstly you have to configure this register. I mean, you have to use this register for configuring the pin. Then you have to use this register port X for writing the value. You can write either 0 or 1. Suppose if you are connecting a LED, then if you want to blink the LED, first you will have to write the logic high, then you have to write the logic 0. So for writing the logic to the particular pin, you have to use this register port X. So this you have to write 1 and or 0 based on your application. And third one is pin X register. So this pin X register is used for the sensors. Like if you want to connect a sensor to a particular pin, then sensor will give some data, so you have to read those data, right? So you can use this pin X register for reading the data. So for using this register, firstly you have to configure the pin either in the input mode or output mode. So for reading the data, you have to configure the pin in the input mode, right? Because you want to connect the sensor. So for configuring the pin, again you have to use DDRX register. So by this register, you can configure the pin in the input mode, and then you can use this pin X register. Thank you.